So I've always struggled with blood pressure for many, many years. I've always taken blood pressure medications. But I'm happy to say today it was 128 over 78. So to see the bottom number at 78, I'm just ecstatic about that. And eating this way for me, I feel clean. I don't know how to really describe it, but I just don't feel heavy and saturated. I actually feel clean and lighter, I guess you can say.
Welcome to the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Anna Zinn, plant-based registered dietitian and transition coach. Hi friend, do you want to regain your health with plant-based eating but feel overwhelmed and lost about how to do it? Do you feel it'll be hard to change your meat-heavy diet and impossible with working, running the home, or chasing after the grandkids? If so, you're in the right place. Here you'll find simple strategies, clear nutrition guidance, and practical tips to help you thrive plant-powered with more energy. So if you're ready to ditch the guesswork and transform your health the stress-free way, cozy up now with a hot cup of tea or listen while you walk, and let me show you how doable plant-based eating can be. Let's do this. Hello, listeners. Welcome back to my interview with special guest Lyana Salerno. Lyana is a member of my free Beginners for Plant-Based Diet Success Facebook group and is also a listener to this Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. In part 1, we spoke about Lyana's previous diet and lifestyle prior to moving to a plant-based diet. She had been eating a mostly standard American diet and was in a pretty sedentary job for a few decades. Since early adulthood, she's had high blood pressure and had been battling prediabetes for a few years. But it all came to a head in January when she, after further blood work, found out that she had non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and also had a formal diagnosis of diabetes, in addition to high cholesterol. This was a wake-up call of sorts to her and really set her on the path to start changing her diet and lifestyle, or to look into ways to change it. So that led her into a path of cutting out sugar and processed foods almost immediately. And then she started looking more into potentially going to a keto diet, but she also started looking more into plant-based eating more seriously. And Lyana made that decision to move into a full whole food plant-based diet with no oil. And that's what she's been on over the last few months with quite some results. So thank you again for joining us today, Lyana. I would love to ask you, during these last 4 months since you've been on a whole food plant-based diet with no oil, did you make other lifestyle changes during this time?
Actually, yes. Once I started losing the weight, I felt so much better and I wanted to move. When you're overweight and you're just tired and you have knee issues and you're in pain all the time, you don't want to move. So, yeah, once I lost the 22 pounds, still going, but once I lost that 22 pounds, I just felt so much better. And yeah, so I'm moving my body a lot more than I ever did before. And not only that, I have upped my water intake. That's something that I had always struggled before. I would drink coffee or I would drink diet soda, and then that was it. I've always been kind of a sipper. I don't drink a lot of fluid. So whatever I did drink, it was like coffee, a diet soda, and sometimes I wouldn't even have a drop of water in a day. But now, yep, I'm definitely drinking my water. I'm moving more. I just feel so much better.
That's great to hear. Are you moving more just in terms of just being more active outside of your job, going for walks or things? Or is it like a more structured exercise that you're doing more regularly, perhaps at the gym?
So I've never really been like a gym person. My husband has been very supportive throughout my struggles for losing weight and trying to get off meds. So he's always suggested, let's go walking, let's go walking. So we would go walking, but my back would hurt. I have a bad left knee. My knee would hurt. I would go for a little bit, and just my back was just hurting so bad. So we would have to turn around and come back. Now, when we go walking, it doesn't hurt. But most of my activity really is we've been redoing our backyard. So we've been doing a lot of gardening, and that entails a lot of digging and bending and walking from one end to the other, planting, and we're just constantly moving. So yes, it's more of in gardening that I'm getting a lot of my activity. And over here in Ohio, it's very humid. So I am just constantly sweating all the time. So I make sure to hydrate myself and I make sure to tell my husband, hydrate, hydrate. So we're definitely drinking more water. So my activity is more so with the gardening that I'm doing right now.
That's great. And I think gardening is actually quite an active pastime because, like you said, you are moving around, working with the soil, with the plants, walking here and there. It can be a great way of getting in that movement, especially over the summer. And the benefits is you get the reward of enjoying all these fruits and vegetables that you're planting at the end of it. So you said before you may sometimes go a day without a drop of actual water versus the diet sodas and the coffee. So now, on average, how much water would you say you're drinking in a day?
I try to take in my 64 ounces. If I can get to 64 ounces, great. Sometimes I do better than 64 ounces, but 64 ounces is my goal. And right now, I even have my Yeti full of ice and water. So I make sure that we have water. We actually just bought a water cooler, as a matter of fact. So we drink a lot more filtered water and it's always there at hand.
That's a big change then, Liana, from before not even drinking a drop of water in a day to having 64 ounces on average. So that's fantastic. Water is one of the best fluids we can give our bodies to hydrate. Have you experienced other positive changes since eating plant based over the last 4 months, besides the changes in your cholesterol, liver enzymes, and for your weight?
Actually, yes. So I've struggled with depression, and that is in my family as well. But it got really bad in January or leading up to January. I wasn't sleeping well. Yeah, the depression was pretty bad, a lot of stress. It just seems like I'm just so much happier now. I really am. I think just taking off some of this weight and being able to move and seeing my reflection in the mirror, I don't cringe anymore. I actually feel like finally I'm going in the right direction rather than going up like I was for several years on the scale. I'm actually coming down. And that is a huge positive for someone that struggles with their weight. When they see their weight going up and there's nothing that is working, and you finally find something that's working and you're going down on the scale, which is always good, taking excess weight off your body, it just makes you feel so excited that you're on the right path. So, yes, I sleep better. My energy level is up. My depression, I can't really say I'm depressed anymore. I'm actually very happy.
Those are wonderful changes to hear. Sometimes it's more of the intangible positive changes that are perks of eating plant based, having the energy to do more things, sleeping better, and having less depression, feeling happier and healthier as well. And I know there is that real connection, the gut brain axis, with feeding our gut microbes the right way with nourishing high fiber, whole plant based foods that can impact our mental health as well
Mhm.
substantially. And I think there's the added assurance of knowing when you're on a whole food plant based diet with no oil, that as you see your weights coming down over time, it's more of a consistent, gradual trend.
It really is. And eating this way for me, I feel clean. I don't know how to really describe it, but I just don't feel heavy and saturated. I actually feel clean and lighter, I guess you can say. There was some time in the past where I would wake up and I would have puffy eyes all the time, and my ankles would be puffy, like I had edema or something. They were swollen, and I don't have any of that anymore. I wake up, I'm good, no puffy eyes. I check my ankles, I check my feet just to make sure that I'm still doing good on the sodium and I don't have any swelling.
That's great to hear. And you said your blood pressure, is it now pretty much in normal range or how is it now?
So I've always struggled with blood pressure for many, many years. But I'm happy to say today it was 128 over 78, which normally I would struggle between, say, 130s, 140s over high 80s, 90s. So to see the bottom number at 78, I'm just ecstatic about that. So yeah, today was 128 over 78.
That's a great reading to have. And I'm sure as you continue with plant-based eating, with the way that you're eating and your lifestyle changes, that we'll continue to see that improving over time as well. Previously, you said you struggle with blood pressure. Were you on blood pressure medications?
Yes, I've always taken blood pressure medications. I actually tried to get off of them, but I don't know if it's just because it runs in my family. Even out of all seven of us kids, I have thin siblings, siblings that are not overweight, but they still struggle with high blood pressure. Most of my siblings struggle with high blood pressure. So it has been a struggle. And like I said, I don't like to take prescription medications. I tried to get off my blood pressure meds, but it just seems like when I tried to do that, my blood pressure would just go way up. And I just didn't want any problems. So I stuck with the blood pressure meds. If anything, blood pressure meds has really been the only med that I've taken consistently.
Okay, I understand that. I think you're moving in the right direction with plant-based eating, and you've really only been on this whole food, plant-based, no oil diet lifestyle for 4 months. So as you move forward and continue to monitor your blood pressure levels, I think there's a real possibility that you'll be able to stay off the cholesterol medications and eventually cut down on your blood pressure medications in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, my goal is to eventually stop all meds. That would be wonderful. If I can do that, lose more weight, no longer be pre-diabetic, stabilize my blood pressure, bring down my cholesterol even more. Yeah, those are my goals. Ultimately, not being on prescription meds.
I definitely support you in that, and I'm cheering you on. And it's so exciting that all these changes are happening just within a couple of months and without you having to take more medications or be on surgery or doing other drastic measures. For your husband, he's been on the sidelines watching you do this whole food, plant based, no oil lifestyle. Have you noticed any impact of your way of eating on him, his mindset, some influences in terms of foods in the home or what he's been willing to try?
I am so glad you asked me that. My husband is the most supportive person. He's just been my biggest cheerleader in all of this. He says, just whatever makes you happy. I just want you to be happy. He says, but you're beautiful to me. And he's just so supportive. But yes, in changing how I cook, and I never pushed this on him. I just said, this is the way I'm going to eat. You can continue to eat how you want to eat. I'm not going to push it on you, but this is what I need to do for myself. But he says, whatever you cook, I will eat. And I'm telling you, I have the best mushroom stroganoff. It is the best. It's plant based, whole food plant based mushroom stroganoff. He said if I didn't tell him it was whole food plant based, he would not have known. And he loved it. He said, next time we have company over, he wants me to make that. So he is on board with anything that I make. He's willing to try it. And everything that I have made, he loves it. So yes, it's kind of rubbing off on him.
That's so exciting to hear. I always love hearing about how the loved one or spouse or family gets influenced when one person in the family moves towards plant based eating. How wonderful for your husband to be supportive of you and be willing to try. I think that's a huge step, just being willing to try these foods. Because sometimes if you don't know what a plant based meal tastes like, you wouldn't know if you like it or not. So big props to him for being willing to try that and that he enjoyed the mushroom stroganoff. So I guess at home he's eating the same way you are because you are cooking this way, right? But I'm assuming outside the home he's still kind of eating what he likes at restaurants. Is that right?
That's correct. He is still a meat and potatoes kind of guy. And yeah, I don't see how right now stopping the meat. He loves his meat, but he has been eating healthier because I've been eating healthier. So he says, don't worry about cooking me something separate. I'll eat whatever you're going to eat. So whatever you make, I'll eat it. And so that has helped so much because then I don't have to make him something separate from me. But again, when we go out to dinner or something, his choices are still, he likes his meat.
Okay, and that's fine. I think the fact that he's eating mostly plant-based at home with the same meals that you're having is still a big positive change forward for him. And this is a transition for him as much as it is for you as well. So give it more time. And the main thing is he's enjoying the meals you're making and he's getting exposed to all these different plant-based foods and ways of making things. So
Mhm.
continue what you're doing. That's wonderful. So for him, did he have any health issues or is he already noticing some positive changes?
So actually, yeah, he was diagnosed pre-diabetic as well, which he said he had never been diagnosed. And this was probably about a year and a half ago. Also, high cholesterol. So he actually did some blood work probably about a week before I did. So this was in July, and I can't even believe this guy. His blood work came back excellent. So I think if I can remember correctly, he is still in the pre-diabetic zone, but he's really cut out a lot of sugar because he used to drink a lot of Pepsi throughout the day and eat candy. And we used to actually, both of us would get a bowl of ice cream almost every night. And yeah, he doesn't do that anymore. And he's cut down his Pepsi. And so I know his number went down. His cholesterol is coming down. Actually, he's in normal range now. His total cholesterol number is in the normal range. So I think it's benefiting him.
That's fantastic to hear. Just by eating at home in a way that's similar to you, it's definitely having an impact on him health wise. So, as we are coming to a close here, I'd love to ask you, do you have a key takeaway or a tip you would like to give our listeners that could help them in their journey towards plant based eating?
So there are so many key takeaways. But if you're asking me for one, I would say, and this was something that worked for me, and that was, all these years I just wanted the scale number to move down, 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 get on that scale, make sure it goes down and lose weight. Well, in January, when I hit my worst numbers and was diagnosed with things, I switched my way of thinking, and that was focus on your health, not on the number on the scale, okay? The weight will come off when you go whole food, plant-based or plant-based, no oil, however you're gonna do plant-based, which obviously means you're not having these diseases, these conditions when the numbers come down and they get into the normal range. So just focus on your health because the weight will come off.
That's such an important tip I think that you're sharing with our listeners, and one I absolutely agree with. Because I think it's so important that we're focusing on our health because it is a lifestyle change. This plant based eating is not a fad diet, it's not a quick lose weight scheme. Even though results can vary for each person, the way the scale changes can vary for each person depending on how their transition is going. But the number one goal for a person on a plant based diet is really to improve their health, right? To make those changes to the health. And I just think of the changes on the weight front as more perks as a side benefit to this, but it shouldn't be your focus.
Yeah, I just feel this is a sustainable lifestyle. There's so much food to eat on a plant-based diet or lifestyle. You can't go wrong. There's just so much to eat on it. And there's lots of recipes out there, very tasty recipes. So, yeah, I just feel like, if you eat the colors of the rainbow, a variety of fruits and vegetables, nuts, seed, grains, whole grains, and greens, greens, greens. You'll definitely feel the difference.
I agree with you on that. Definitely, variety is important. And you're right, the plant based world is so vast. It's hard to explore it all, even in a lifetime. And there's so many different plants, different kinds of whole grains, different beans, different types of mushrooms. that you wouldn't realize if you stay to meats and animal-based products, but kind of frees up your capacity to try and to enjoy all these plant-based foods when you move into a plant-centered way of eating. Thank you for being here today, Liana, and for sharing your story with us. I'm definitely leaving this interview feeling inspired and motivated to continue plant-based eating on my side, a whole food plant-based diet. And it's just so uplifting to hear the positive changes that can occur to one's life and one's health just from changing the way that we eat and putting different foods on our plates without needing more meds or surgery.
And, I want to thank you, Anna, for spreading the message on how a plant-based lifestyle can truly change lives. I joined your Facebook page or group in April, and that's how I found out about your podcast, which I've been listening to ever since. So thank you for all your encouragement.
You're welcome, Liana. To me, it's a privilege to be able to serve others through the podcast and through my Beginners for Plant Based Diet Success Facebook group. I think we all need that extra support and encouragement and motivation to keep going because it is a big lifestyle change. That's why I appreciate guests like you, Liana, for just being willing to share your story because just sharing about real life experiences can really make a difference and help others see that it's possible and it's happening in real life, that people are experiencing positive health changes just from making a change in their lifestyle and way of eating. So thank you, Liana, for being here today. And listeners, thank you for tuning in today to listen to this interview. Thank you so much for listening. If this podcast has inspired, encouraged, or helped you in some way to transform your health, I would love to hear about it. Please take 30 seconds to rate and leave a written review on Apple Podcasts to let me know. It will encourage me so much to hear how this podcast has positively impacted and made a difference in your journey towards wellness. And share about this podcast with a friend or loved one so we can all thrive in the best health. Remember, plant-based eating can be easy and doable. See you in the next episode, my friend.